When we talk about bringing a new drug to market, you've probably heard the story, right? It's a tale of heroic science, massive financial risk, and just these staggering costs. But what if that's not the whole story? What if there's another story, kind of hidden in plain sight, recorded in a totally different set of books? Well, today we're prying open what the source material for this explainer calls the shadow ledger of innovation.
Okay, let's just start with the number, the one that kicks off pretty much every debate about drug prices. $2.6 billion. You've seen it everywhere. It's the figure that's famously quoted as the cost to develop one single new medicine. I mean, it's a number so huge it's hard to even wrap your head around. And it's used to justify the entire economic model of the industry.
But here's the question we're asking today. Is that what it really is? Is $2.6 billion the price of pure, unadulterated innovation? Or does that massive figure kind of bundle in the cost of something else entirely? That's the mystery we're going to unravel. We are going to take this number and really dissect it, piece by piece.
Now, to solve a mystery like this, you need the right tools. And the source material gives us a fantastic framework for looking at this number. It helps us see it not as this single solid block of granite, but as something we can actually break apart and analyze.
So here's the key. The most crucial point is this. We have to stop looking at that $2.6 billion as one giant cost. Instead, let's imagine three separate financial account books, three ledgers, and each one tells a very, very different story about where all that money is really going. First up, you've got the scientific ledger. Now, this is the one we all think of, right? This is the money for the scientists and lab coats, the research labs, and all those super rigorous clinical trials you need to prove a drug is safe and that it actually works. This is, the cost of pure discovery. Next, we have our main character, the shadow ledger. This one isn't about creating medicine. Nope. This is about creating and defending a market monopoly. We're talking about the incredible costs of lawsuits, armies of lawyers, and a ton of political influence. This isn't the cost of innovation. It's the cost of exclusivity.
And finally, just to round out the picture, there's the commercial ledger. This is everything spent to actually sell the drug once it's approved. Think of all those TV commercials, the massive teams of sales reps, all the marketing. It's a big cost for sure, but it's separate from both inventing the drug and defending its monopoly.
All right, so with our toolkit in hand, let's actually start the investigation. We're going to begin by trying to figure out the direct bottom-up costs. We're following the money trail that lives in that first book, the scientific ledger.
You see, every single new drug has to run this brutal gauntlet of clinical trials to get approved. It starts with phase 1, which is all about basic safety in a small group of people. Then you move to phase 2, where you're checking to see if the drug actually works on a few hundred patients. And then you have the final boss, the massive, incredibly expensive phase 3 trials to confirm everything in thousands of people.
And as you can imagine, the costs just explode as you go along. Phase 1 might be a few million bucks. Phase 2 jumps up quite a bit. But phase 3, wow. A single one of these huge confirmatory trials can cost hundreds of millions of dollars all on its own. This is where the real scientific money gets spent. So when you add it all up, the direct, out-of-pocket cost for all the lab work and the clinical trials for just one successful drug, the source material suggests you land somewhere in this range, about $200 to $500 million. Now, don't get me wrong, that is a ton of money, but it's not $2.6 billion, is it? Which, of course, brings us right to the multi-billion-dollar question. What on earth is accounting for that enormous gap? Where is the other $2.1 billion? Well, this is where our investigation takes a sharp turn, moving us out of the science lab and straight into the courtroom. It's time. Let's open that second book. We are now entering the world of the shadow ledger, where the goal isn't just to make a great drug, but to make damn sure no one else can.
See, the whole purpose of the shadow ledger is defense. It's all the money spent building a massive fortress of patents, launching preemptive lawsuits, and shaping the political landscape, all to protect a blockbuster drug's revenue for as long as humanly possible.
And here's how you build that fortress. A drug might have one main patent on the actual molecule, but then a company can surround it with dozens, sometimes literally hundreds of secondary patents. These can be for things like the coating on the pill, the specific dosage, or a new way to use it. They create what's called a patent thicket, this dense legal jungle that's almost impossible for a generic competitor to navigate.
And check this out, there's a key legal move that's used all the time. When a generic company is finally ready to launch their cheaper version, the brand name company can just sue them for patent infringement. And here's the kicker. Just by filing that lawsuit, they can trigger an automatic 30-month delay in the generic's approval from the FDA. It basically weaponizes the legal system as a pause button. And the costs here are just immense.
You're talking millions in legal fees for every single one of these lawsuits. Sometimes, companies will even pay their generic competitor to not launch their product, and these things called pay-for-delay deals. And then, of course, there are the millions and millions spent on lobbying to make sure the laws stay just the way they like them. All of this spending, it comes straight out of the shadow ledger.
So what does this all mean when we put the pieces back together? Well, it starts to look like there are basically two completely different business models, two different economies, really, operating under the same industry umbrella. On the one hand, you've got your smaller biotech innovators. Their money is almost entirely going into the scientific ledger. They're just burning cash trying to get a new idea through trials. But then, you've got the massive pharmaceutical conglomerates. For them, a huge chunk of their budget shifts over to the shadow ledger. The game becomes less about discovering the next blockbuster and more about defending the cash cows they already have.
And this really gets to the heart of it. That $2.6 billion number, it isn't necessarily a lie. It's more like a bundled truth. It lumps together the cost of all the scientific failures, the cost of capital over many years, and most importantly for our story today, it mashes together the cost of genuine scientific discovery with the cost of defending a monopoly.
And that leaves us with this final thought from the source material. Maybe the most important question we can ask isn't just how much does a drug cost to make, but rather, what are we actually paying for? Are we paying for the cure or are we paying for the corner? Because distinguishing between the two just might be the key to understanding this entire complicated system.